Hi, Thompson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Michael.
Okay. All right. Are you using your computer or your phone?
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm using my computer. Yes, I can, Michael.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, until anything goes wrong, I will use the setup I've got there now. Is that adequate, do you think? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Thompson? I've got there now. Is that adequate, do you think?
I think there's echo coming from your end.
Okay, that's because I wonder why. How about now? Still? Can you hear me?
There's no echo now, as of now.
Can you hear me, Thompson?
I can hear you.
I've got there now. Is that adequate, do you think?
I think there's echo.
Okay, let me try it on my, I'll try it the other way around. I'll try and use my, going through my computer. Just hang on.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Thompson.
Hi.
Trying to get the glare off my eyes.
Right. Dr. Ui is here as well. And Haji Mubarak is here as well.
Try and fix up the light. Hey, Julie. I need acknowledgement of country, and I've got it. I don't have it.
Is it a webinar?
So there's people in South Australia, there's people from all over.
Yeah, it's okay.
Good afternoon, Thompson. Do you think we're ready to go?
I think so.
Do we have all of our key panelists in place?
Yes. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Michelle.
I think we're ready to go, Michael.
Hey, thank you, Thompson. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you're joining us from different parts of Australia or different parts of ASEAN and Asia more generally, I welcome you to this event. And first of all, I'd like to make an acknowledgement of country, which is very common in a
I think we lost you, Michael. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
just checking that we're now connected.
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the AAED webinar series, Sustainable and Smart Cities, Building Education, Research and Skills Training Partnerships between the sister cities of Georgetown, Penang, Malaysia, and Adelaide, Australia. It is our tradition in Australia to make an acknowledgement to the country on which we meet for this webinar, and I'd like to pay respects to the traditional Indigenous peoples of the land from which we all meet. I pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging, and to the spirit of the land in Australia. Welcome. My name is Michael Fay, and I'm a director at ASEAN Focus Group and convener of the ASEAN Australia Education Dialogue. First of all, I would also like to acknowledge our guests, our special guests. We have from Malaysia, from Penang, the Chief Minister of Penang State, Malaysia, the Right Honourable Chow Kon Yeow, who will be speaking to us in a pre-recorded video. And I'd also like to welcome our speakers. First of all, Haji Mubarak Ben Yunus, the Director of Urban Services for the City Council of Penang Island. Michelle English, Associate Director, Economic Development and Sustainability for the City of Adelaide. Dr. Wiki Beng, Executive Director of the Penang Institute, and Thomson Chung from the Penang, Australia alumnus and International Alumni of the Year 2020 from the Global Pioneer Awards, and a proud son of Penang. First of all, just a few words about the journey of the ASEAN-Australia Education Dialogue and how we come to be at this event today. So when we set up the dialogues, the welcoming home, initial home for the dialogue was Penang. And we have a special place in our heart for that warm welcome. Penang, strategically located on the Straits of Malacca, with a long history of engagement with the whole of Asia, but particularly on the crossroads of trade in Southeast Asia, and with a remarkable connection to Australia through the sister city link between Penang and Adelaide, which we're here to celebrate today, because this is the 47th anniversary of that founding sister city relationship. And we often think about, well, what does it mean to have a sister city relationship? It's important if you do something about it. And the great thing about Penang and Adelaide is that the vision of the then Premier and the Chief Minister of Adelaide and the Chief Minister of Penang was to connect up two places that were bound together by history. And that history was that the founding and the surveying and layout of both cities was done by people from the same family. The Light family that were instrumental in the establishment of the then British settlement of Penang, and then the layout and design and surveying of Adelaide, helped to bring the two cities together. And that relationship has grown over the last 47 years, and we should acknowledge the visionary then Premier of South Australia, the Right Honourable Don Dunstan, for his initiative, and for that initiative to be matched by the Chief Minister then of Penang Island. So things have moved on in our own histories, but we're here to both celebrate that relationship and to see how we can help build the link between both Adelaide and Penang into the future. And we have a very interesting group of people who are going to help us to navigate further into that journey. So we'll move on now to the opening address, and an official welcome, which has been pre-recorded in Penang by the Right Honourable Chow Kon Yeow, who's the Chief Minister of Penang State, Malaysia. Thank you very much, Chief Minister. We look forward to hearing from you. We will be with you in a moment. The technology has to be. There we are. Finally, we get the technology. Thank you.
Honourable Stephen Marshall, MP, Premier of South Australia, Mr. Michael Fay, convener of the ASEAN-Australia Education Dialogue, representatives from the Australian, Malaysian, and other ASEAN government departments and agencies, representatives from the City of Adelaide, representatives of universities, higher education and TVET institutions, schools, distinguished guests and delegates, friends, students, ladies and gentlemen. My warmest greetings to all of you. 47 years ago today, the former South Australian Premier, Honourable Don Dunstan, and our second Chief Minister, the late Tun Dr. Lim Chong Yu, formed a former sister city relationship between Georgetown, the capital of Penang, and the city of Adelaide, South Australia. Since then, there have been a number of exchanges, projects, and activities between Penang and South Australia. The recent one being the hosting of two successive ASEAN-Australia Education Dialogue AAED in 2018 and 2019. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Penang, also known as the Silicon Valley of Asia, has a highly regarded industrial, tourism, and medical infrastructure. In addition to the traditional computer chips, many other technology companies are now establishing their base here in Penang. This gives students a chance to pursue internships in a variety of fields and subsequently employment. Speaking of employment, I am happy to note that despite the setback of the COVID-19 pandemic, Penang has managed to record 10.6 billion ringgit of total approved manufacturing investment for the first 9 months of this year, creating about 9,137 new employment opportunities in the state. In this regard, we are particularly proud of the establishment of the Penang Skill Development Center in 1989, the first tripartite industrial-led skills training and education center in Malaysia. Just like Adelaide and South Australia, Penang is passionate and committed to the development of the education and training sector and intends to transform it into one of Penang's main economic drivers. The Penang state government, through Study Penang, aspire to establish the state as a world-class educational hub, raise awareness and recognition of the education sector, as well as leverage current and future needs of the private sector. We want to match education and skill training with the ever-evolving needs of the industry. On this, I believe we can draw upon our sectoral strengths and learn from one another as we work towards the common aspiration in education and training sector. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Penang is pleased to have embarked on a journey to transform into an international and smart city, one which is also amongst the most livable, not just in Asia, but in the world as well. Indeed, Penang and South Australia have also shared the common aspiration of smart and sustainable cities. In 2018, the Penang government launched the Penang 2030, a family-focused, green and smart state that inspires the nation vision. This is a vision and an approach that has been worked out after consultation with stakeholders at all levels. It contains 4 themes and strategic initiatives: increase livability to enhance quality of life, upgrade the economy to raise household income, empower people to strengthen civic participation, and invest in the built environment to improve resilience. I am very pleased to see today's panel discussion on the topic of sustainable and smart city, building education, research, and skill training partnerships between the sister cities of Georgetown and Adelaide. I am glad to see that Penang 2030 will be part of today's panel discussion. I encourage you to visit penang2030.com to find out more about our vision and plan to transform Georgetown and Penang into our sustainable and smart cities. As what the former South Australian Premier, Honourable Don Dunstan had said, this sister cities relationship shouldn't be confined solely to intergovernmental or purely business contexts, but at all levels as well, to create an intimate fabric of exchange and cooperation that broadens our understanding of each other. Lastly, I hope that this dialogue will be the first of many to come. I wish you a very productive dialogue as we work towards building lasting and meaningful engagement that serves our shared heritage proud. I hope that one day, when the situation allows, we can host you in our beautiful UNESCO World Heritage Georgetown, and that you will be able to enjoy our state of Penang, which is known for having the best food in the world, outstanding architectural heritage, and diverse natural wonders. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, the Right Honourable Chow Kon Yu, for that overview of the relationship and the confirmation of the intent of Penang to build on that history of relationship and take it to the next level. We're now moving on to the next stage of the webinar. And in this, we're going to have presentations from speakers from both Adelaide and Penang around the topic of sustainable and smart cities. And I'd like, first of all, to invite Haji Mubarak bin Yunus, the Director of Urban Services, City Planning of Penang Island, to make a presentation.
Okay. Good morning, Michael. Good afternoon.
Good morning, Pak.
It's good morning here. Actually, good morning to the Honourable YB P. Gumpo and all members of this session. Mr. Thomas, can you share my slide also to them? Mr. Thomas? Okay. It is my pleasure to represent City Council of Penang Island today. Hello. On the Smart City Agenda, Sustainable and Smart Cities Agenda, especially on Georgetown City Council. And as next slide, please. As we mentioned, we know that the year 2020 has been a challenging year for everyone globally due to COVID-19 pandemic. And we have put in place measures to ensure safe environment and continue to adapt to the evolving situations. This pandemic has boosted us to tap into our own capacities, into our own strength, into resources to stimulate back the local economy and to sustain the environment. This is when the concept of smart city and the function of smart governance play a vital role during this crucial period. The movement control order has pushed us towards digitalization, such as virtual meetings, business from home, business from farm, especially durian farming here in Penang Island, cashless transactions, speeding up construction and business dealings, and many others. This is something that we are moving forward in terms of technological evolution of technology. Next slide, please. We have started transforming into a smart city through our many programs and platforms. The City Council of Penang Island wants to create an intelligent, livable, and happy city for the people. In actual fact, we have 5 domains such as e-governance, mobility, smart economy, smart environment, and smart social. We capitalize on our own infrastructure and resources for sustainable and livable city. And we know that many cities are transforming into smart cities through technology, big data, analytics, Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence. And Georgetown is no different also. Under our smart city initiatives, we plan to become a data-driven city. We have a data-driven system. Next slide, please. Called the Integration Local Council Solution System. Can we share the next slide? The Integrated Local Council Solution System enables us to provide faster, more efficient and better services to the people. And we collaborated with private sector, IBM, to set up an intelligent operations center. In actual fact, this intelligent operations center integrates systems that provide visibility into overall city and also optimizing operational efficiency. Data is collected from IoT devices such as sensors, closed-circuit camera, and other smart appliances, in which we can analyze for pattern, trend, and whatever anomalies. These are actually our eyes in the sky. The IOC actually has improved us in terms of our preparedness and response to several incidents related to flood mitigation, traffic congestion, prevent the spread of COVID-19, and many others. Next slide, please. As we know that Penang Island is a home to a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Georgetown, and gentrification is an issue that we have to look into seriously. One of the projects that we have undertaken to protect the outstanding universal value of the city is repopulating Georgetown. There are projects under this program, which is the restoration and repurposing of our heritage building into purpose-built residence accommodation, as well as to create co-living and co-working spaces. These projects also aim to bring youth and students back into the city to make a livable city. A smart city will need to be able to move its people, and this is where smart mobility comes in. In this aspect, next slide, please. Next slide, please. In this aspect, our IT as a services. This is an approach to bring together various modes of transportation in our city, such as smart parking system, rapid or shuttle service buses, cycling city. In actual fact, we have dedicated and cycling-friendly lane up to 220 kilometers within our city, walkable city, and e-hailing. And we are currently planning towards transit-oriented development and water taxi as coastal alignment for our additional mode of transportations. We want Georgetown, next slide please. We want Georgetown to become a livable and sustainable city. So we have implemented our green connectivity project. This is an integrated project that connects people through various mobility solutions while increasing green spaces in the city. This project includes our business improvement district green, especially in Georgetown area, and back lane improvement initiative. As a whole, this transformation has social economic benefits for the city and improves the quality of life for its residents within the city. All components combined are expected to create a green, livable city, and in the long term, it will lower the carbon footprint of the city. We also promote, next slide please, low carbon initiative by implementing the retrofit energy management scheme, where we replace all our street lamps with LED lights to reduce energy consumption. And we also promote green buildings are also our key ingredient on our overall smart city plan for a cleaner and greener built environment. We promote GBI initiative through assessment fee rebate for the developer. Penang has the third largest GBI buildings footprint in our country. So our GBI rating system will not be successful if stakeholders were not willing to take ownership and commit to sustainable development. When it comes to manage a city, the local government cannot work alone. Engagement, empowerment, and participation has been our key factor in implementing smart city initiatives. We encourage public, private, and people partnership projects. Participation refers to all involved from the partners, the PPP, the local government, down to the people who will be benefiting from the smart city initiative. Funding is a common issue for most local governments, and we feel that PPP is a good concept to do more for a less investment. It is said that, next slide please, it is said that the future of city lies in the hands of the young, and this is why we have focused on nurturing future talents and retaining them here in Penang. We want to promote the learning of science, technology, engineering, arts and mathematics in our young generations. Penang has introduced several platforms to connect business, to connect students, to connect youth group with the right talent and partners, such as our partners, Malaysian Digital Economic Corporation, Intel, IBM, Polytechnics, and many others at our own platform, which is at our available platform, which is Penang Science Cluster, Penang Career Assistant and Talent Center, and Makerspace. These platforms can provide the training and expertise to convert innovative ideas into invention and startup. Industry involvement as our partners will be able to provide support to sustain and assist this startup. And in actual fact, we are planning to expand our collaboration with Polytechnic and IBM to bring best talent and technology on a seamless pathway from high school and college and career, and future connecting talented people with the relevant industries. A smart cities, next slide please. A smart city needs high-speed internet. So we are gradually installing 5G infrastructure in the city. When there is availability of 5G infrastructure in the city, coupled with our repopulating Georgetown program, we will be able to bring in more talents to live, to learn, to work, and to play in Georgetown. The city will become an attractive livable city for the young, thus helping us to retain our talents, and the availability of high-speed internet mean facilitating the learning of STEAM within the city, especially at a tertiary level under programs offered by local colleges. It is also in line with our aspiration as turning Penang into a world-class education hub. Penang has a strong manufacturing ecosystem, so it is perfect as an incubator to train up future knowledge-based talents. We only need to provide support in terms of infrastructure and the right platform to spur the learning of STEAM subjects and to train up our young talents. The City Council of Penang Island is committed in continuously upgrading our infrastructure, such as providing high-speed internet to support the nurturing of future talents in the state. We feel that this is important, that smart city initiative focus on the people while building resilience. The people are the ones who drive the city. We want to build a low carbon and compact city where people can live, learn, work, and play. We hope that through our partners that we can change ideas and share resources on how we can train up and nurture our future talents towards becoming smart cities with a largely knowledge-based workforce. We also hope to align our sustainability plan with partners to achieve the SDGs towards becoming a family-focused, green and smart state that inspires the nation. Thank you very much. That's all from me.
Thank you very much, Haji Mubarak. That was a very full, very in-depth coverage of some of the initiatives that you are taking in Penang and have been taking for a number of years. And it just further consolidates in our mind that Penang is really reaching out, not just within Malaysia, but both regionally and internationally to ensure that it brings into place global best practice for smart cities and sustainability. It's now our great pleasure to move towards Adelaide and to ask the representative from Adelaide City, or the City of Adelaide, Michelle English, who is the Associate Director for Economic Development and Sustainability, to speak from the perspective of Adelaide. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you very much, Michael. And that was just so wonderful to hear what the Penang City Council is doing. And there are so many similarities with what our two sister cities are doing. So I'm just going to share my screen so you can see my presentation. And I just was going to see if I could get a nod from people if you can see my screen. Yes? Can you see?
Not yet.
It's just loading, I think, Michelle.
Oh, okay. How about now? No? Let me try again. No?
Still seems to be loading, but maybe if there's still an issue, we could, I don't know if Thompson is able to help out there.
Would that be better, Thompson? I can't
Let me check.
Everything's gone. Oh, perfect. If you want to play that for me, that would be fantastic. Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Thompson. So I was just going to start just to tell you a little bit about Adelaide, and then I'll, for those who haven't been to Adelaide, so we're the capital city of South Australia, and the Greater Adelaide area has a population of 1.3 million, but the City of Adelaide really covers the central business district, some residential areas, and we're surrounded by the Adelaide Parklands, and this is really very much a homage to the Colonel Light design of Adelaide. So the similarity that we've heard already about the Lights designing both of our cities, and we're so blessed by the opportunity to still see the city in a park that we have today. And these are very highly valued by our community. So we have just over 100,000 workers who come into our city and employed by city businesses. We only have about 25,000 residents, and that includes, very importantly, just over 4,000 international students. But what we do have is well over 300,000 average daily visitors to the city. And very similar to what we heard in relation to Penang is we really want to position ourselves as a place to live, to work, to study, and of course to visit as well. we have, I thought I'd just touch on some of the festivals and events that we have in the city, because this is something we know that we share with Georgetown as well. So we support, in order of, say, 25 major events each year, which bring in over 5 million people to our city, and they're both interstate and overseas. And this has a very significant economic benefit for our city. Very similar to what we've heard already, we really have a desire to be one of the world's most livable cities. And we're ranked 10th most livable in the world at the moment. And just this year, with all the challenges that we have, Adelaide was ranked in the Livability Index as the most livable metropolitan location in Australia. If we'll just go over to the next slide. It would be remiss of me not just to talk about the City of Adelaide's COVID-19 response as well. So obviously with very significant restrictions in terms of physical distancing, but also international travel and even interstate travel in Australia. Our city was hit very significantly in terms of financially, and by March we basically had tourism occupancy down our city by, it was down by 82%. We had 80% of our retail businesses were closed across the state. 90% of our business events have been postponed, and very significant international festivals. Luckily, we're just at the tail end of our festival season in March, but we've still had a number of very major festivals throughout the middle of the year, and even into these days cancelled as well. So you can see it's really important for the City of Adelaide to act really quickly and to respond. We are so very thankful that our Australian government and our state government acted quickly, and it's meant that we've really had a benefit in terms of health outcomes, but we also saw that we need to act quickly in terms of economic response. So the City of Adelaide itself has really invested in terms of how we can support the most hard hit sectors of our economy, food and hospitality and events and festivals in particular. And so this year we've our economic response has been just over $11 million, with very, very targeted at those sectors that have been hit. So we've provided rate-free periods to our own tenants. For those people that were under hardship, we've deferred their requirement for them to pay rates. But we've also entered into a partnership with Business SA, which is our peak body for businesses, to really offer new services and advice to help businesses pivot and respond and recover through this period. We've worked very closely with our local accommodation and tourist providers through our My Adelaide Staycation, and it's resulted in 500 bookings, generating over $100,000 income, and this is just for our very local businesses that have been impacted. So I just wanted to give that sort of context. One of the other things that we've done is, while we know we've had these physical distancing requirements, we've also provided grants of just over $1 million out just to our businesses to provide activation out into the streets, so providing more physical distance and space rather than them being contained within their own shops and premises as well. So really trying to use our public space to encourage safe access to our services during this time. So I'm going to flip over to the next one, and I really want to just now start to focus on our sustainability initiatives, and they're so intertwined with our smart thinking as well. So if we think about the City of Adelaide, we've had a very strong focus on sustainability for many decades now, and we've had a very long commitment towards emissions reduction, and the city itself has had a commitment to be a carbon neutral organisation to hit that goal this year. And I was just going to talk through a couple of things that we've done through the Carbon Neutral Adelaide initiative, which is how the city has partnered with the state government and also our business community and our residential community to transition our city community towards carbon neutrality. And so when we do that, we lead by example in our own operations, and I'll talk about that. But then we also support and bring this network of people together, a network of businesses together to support each other, showcase what we're all doing, and move us all forward so we can, as a community, do our part towards the meeting the Paris commitment. So just this year, for example, the City of Adelaide has entered into 100% renewable electricity power purchase agreement. So this is how everything that the city does is now powered by renewable electricity, and that we're the first city council in South Australia to enter into this type of agreement. And what has been really important for us in entering into this agreement is actually providing opportunities to drive growth in the renewable economy sector in regional South Australia. So this work is actually involves the construction of 2 new solar farms in regional South Australia, as well as accessing renewable electricity from an existing large wind farm in the state as well. So this year we will be a carbon neutral certified organisation. And there's been many other projects that have helped us to get to that point, as well as our renewable electricity contract. And I saw that Penang and Georgetown had a focus on LED lighting as part of their sustainability initiatives, and they're very similar types of things that we're doing. So rolling out solar in our own buildings, improving energy efficiency of our operations and supporting our community and our businesses to be more energy efficient as well. And we do that through things like the City Switch Green Office program, but then also by providing sustainability incentives. So you'll see on that slide that we've provided over 550 sustainability incentives. And the way we do that is we really have tried to bring these ideas of smart or innovation together with sustainability. So in 2015, City of Adelaide introduced rebates and incentives for energy storage. It was the first in Australia, as well as electric vehicle charging. And as a result, we want to bring on new technologies. And while we think it's not new now, back in 2015, it was fairly new for us. While we have very significant renewable electricity uptake in our state, we really needed to encourage more of that in the city and look at what the new technologies would be as well. So the work that we did with those incentives, we've shared that with the state government, and we're really doing that to try and attract investment and new technologies to establish in our state. And the work that we did has informed the state government's home battery scheme, and now we are leading in our state and our city in terms of the uptake of batteries and storage. More recently, we've pivoted to what are the new technologies, and we're providing incentives to shared solar and bidirectional electric vehicle charging. And this is where those things of sustainability and innovation come together to drive outcomes that improve the livability of our city for our community, but also provide economic opportunities as well. One of the other things that we've done is compared to, say, Europe and California, Australia has not been as far ahead in terms of the uptake of electric vehicles. So as a city council, one of the things we wanted to do was try and provide the infrastructure for electric vehicles. So we installed 40 electric vehicle fast chargers in our central business district over a couple of years ago. And we did that in a way that we always do, and that is by partnering with experts in those areas and other levels of government. So we worked with SA Power Networks, who are our network providers, to really understand what the implications of those charges would be on our local grid electricity. And then they took the learnings from the city and our grid and then are rolling those out into broader metropolitan Adelaide and the state as well. We have also been working very hard on our resource recovery strategy and understanding that food waste, for example, is a really significant opportunity, but it's a challenge as well. So working with our residents and our business and in our own facilities to divert as much food waste into commercial composting facilities. And with the state government, and they're called Green Industries SA, we have 2 commercial composting facilities, and we're trying to encourage increased diversion of food waste into those facilities, which then in turn is part of that circular economy, and the outputs of those are then going back into our agricultural sector, but then also into household gardens as well. So the City of Adelaide is also seeing the impacts of climate change already by way of increased heat. And last year we had the hottest day on record in January last year. I know it's warm where you are, but for us, we had a 46-degree day, just over that. It was a record for us, and really significant impacts for us, a very dry heat. And so in response to that, we have been undertaking climate risk assessments in terms of our own facilities and our services, so that we can be prepared for the impacts that we're already seeing and that we know we will see in the future. So we've been doing things like heat mapping to understand and collect the data so that we have data-driven decision making in our response. And importantly, I heard from my colleague in Georgetown that greening is really important, and absolutely it's a really key priority for us as well. So we're working with our university partners to understand what the implications of increased heat means on our street trees and our street stock, and ensuring that we're planting climate resilient species into the future. While we're impacted by heat, we also don't have the benefits that you have in terms of access to water. We are the driest city in the driest continent in the world. As a city, we really have had a lot of focus on ensuring that any water is used as best it can be. So we tap into recycled water and understand that there are numerous sources of water that we need to integrate and be a water sensitive city as well. So all of those sustainability initiatives are very much driven by the data behind it and the trends that we're seeing, so that we're having evidence-based decisions going forward. So if we just then perhaps go into the next slide, I'm just going to now briefly talk about our smart city initiatives. If you could flick over to the next one. It was really fantastic to hear the work that Georgetown is doing in terms of data-driven, also 5G connection. We're having certainly a lot of approaches at the moment from telecommunication organisations in terms of rolling out 5G in our city. And we understand that a digitally connected city enables our businesses to have the tools and the technology to really play in these high-tech industries and sectors. So as part of that, we have invested over the last number of years in a dedicated fibre optic network, and we call that 10 gigabit Adelaide. And you can see that sort of first dot point on my slide is we now have 1,000 buildings connected to our 10 gig fibre network, fibre optic network. And it really suits those sort of dynamic businesses and organisations that need to transfer large, very large volumes of data very quickly and very securely. And this really speaks to some of the sectors that we have in as our growth sectors in the city. So science, technology, creative industries, for example, filmmaking. And it also really speaks into the work that we've been doing with the state government and their focus on the Lot 14, we call it, in the city. So this is a $500 million innovation precinct that's had city, state and federal government funding. This is where the Australian Space Agency has been established in Adelaide, but it's also where a lot of innovative businesses and startup businesses are co-locating to really understand what the data opportunities are in the city. So we've had MIT Living Labs start up there and really looking and working with them in terms of the deep data analytic capability that we have in that area as well. In terms of going forward, we see really that Lot 14, housing, defence, cybersecurity, machine learning, and really looking at AI and virtual reality as well. So that's, I guess, just a snapshot of what we're doing in terms of the smart city initiatives as well. Thank you.
Michelle, thank you so much for that. Also, very deep dive into what Adelaide's doing. And I think that just from the last two presentations, we're getting an idea of how the developments in the two cities could be so much more enhanced by greater connectivity between those two cities, so that we can really start to live the Asia-Australia connection and the wonderful opportunity that we have in Australia in having Malaysia as a close partner country and having Penang as such a beacon of free speech, of innovation, of technology, of skills training. And so I think as we move to the latter part of this event, we'll be looking at some of the ways of building future linkages between the two cities and strengthening what we already have in place. So thank you very much, and we'll come back to some of your points. It's now my great pleasure to introduce our third panellist. Dato' Wiki Beng is Executive Director of the Penang Institute, and he will talk for himself about what the Penang Institute does. But I'd just like to acknowledge how we are so thankful to the Penang Institute for being a strong partner of the ASEAN-Australia Education Dialogue and welcoming us both to Penang and to the Institute, which exists as both a Malaysian and a regional think tank. And it's now my great pleasure to ask Ki Beng to say some words about this topic and also about the Institute. Thank you, Ki Beng. Over to you.
Right. Oh, thanks, Michael. Good morning, everyone. Well, let me start by thanking Michael Fay and for those very kind words about us, the Penang Institute. We've been working the last 2-3 years together, haven't we, Michael? And it's been extremely gratifying, extremely beneficial for us. So I'm very glad that you invited us to take part today as well. Well, first I was actually at the launching ceremony of the twinning of Adelaide and Georgetown 47 years ago or something like that, half century ago. And what I remember of that event, and that is my image of Adelaide still, are the smelly cheeses, the succulent grapes, and the fragrant wines that were served at that opening ceremony. Anyway, Adelaide and Georgetown, well, they're secondary cities. So both, I think, feel a very strong need to excel and to do that in areas that differentiate them from primary cities. I would say the following about secondary cities. By definition, they tend to be relatively small, of course, Adelaide has what, 1.3 million or something, while Georgetown or Penang Island itself has about 800,000 people. But the whole state of Penang, I think, has about the same population as the city of Adelaide, 1.3, 1.4 million, if not a bit more. And secondary cities, they usually come high on livability and expatriate rankings, right? Just like Michelle mentioned earlier. And of course, Penang is, or Georgetown is up there where, I don't know, a good place for retirement and whatnot comes in, and for our food and livability as well. And while having a sizable retiree population, secondary city people also tend to invest in education. And I think we've seen that in the two or three presentations so far. And most quaintly, their residents tend to think that they live in what could be and should be paradise. Always full of potential, but not quite living up to it yet, right? I suppose Adelaide's the same. Georgetown is definitely like that. Now, I doubt any discussion on international collaboration can avoid thinking about the impact of COVID-19. Historically, pandemics tend to bring huge changes, altering the trajectory of society in unpredictable ways. A global pandemic such as COVID-19 should logically bring tremendous changes. So we should expect that. Not only have all our economies been badly hit this last year, the very structure of international production, trade, and consumption, on which secondary cities like Adelaide and Georgetown also depend, has been shaken. Now, this comes at a time when all societies have been trying to adapt to the ongoing digital revolution. And I think that is, in a way, a fortunate coincidence. The impact of these two trends tend to complement each other in some ways. They both cause great disruptions across the board, and it appears obvious to me that the new sense of vulnerability we now experience will make us wiser in how we now choose to adopt digital tools to stabilize this new normal we are heading into and to restart better. I'm also convinced that when secondary cities face challenges as difficult and persistent as COVID-19, they are prone to respond more effectively than the primary cities will do. I'm also convinced that local strength is strongest when a city's ties across the world are broad, and when it does not limit itself to its national and proximate surroundings. Now, I would like to point out three broad areas where I feel the two cities have common interests and within which their twin relationship can be rejuvenated. Here, perhaps I could ask Thompson to put in my very short PowerPoint. Thompson, please. Yeah, we can move immediately to the third slide, I would think. Yeah. Well, there are three areas I would like to just focus on very slightly today. These are, well, in digitalization, and it has been mentioned by all the presenters earlier. In digitalization, partly in the advancement of digital literacy for the population at large, and partly in smart city innovations. In agrotech and aquaculture as well, there are opportunities for collaboration. And in an earlier discussion with Adelaide, we did talk about agrotech and aquaculture and how that actually should be something that governments of both sides should discuss further. The second area I would highlight is in socio-cultural development. Thompson, second slide, perhaps. Now, our ties go back to our beginnings, as Michael mentioned, and are in fact symbolically family ties in that sense. Penang being founded in 1830s, Penang being founded in, well, not Penang, Adelaide being founded in 1836 by the son of the man who established Georgetown 50 years earlier in 1786. We are both also cities proud of our festivals and of our cultural heritage in the form of multiculturalism and an easy cosmopolitanism. And thirdly, in the area of education, disruptions in education are ongoing all over the world, and the future of our young people is in crisis in that sense, in the sense that we do not know how they are going to be best educated. but also where their future careers are concerned. Now, whether career is still a generally applicable term in the future, I don't know. But it's also in the efficacy of their development as thinking individuals that we should be concerned about through this crisis. Now, more on digitalization. Now, in Penang, the need for its industries, its governance, and its population to speed up digitalization plans led the state government to establish a new body in early 2020 called Digital Penang, just before COVID-19 broke out. So that was a lucky coincidence. What the pandemic has been showing everyone is that digitalization is much more necessary than had been thought. In fact, after COVID-19, there is no longer any need to convince stakeholders in various sectors of the economy or in governance to support digital literacy and to adopt digital tools. Learning from how each city implements and develops digital tools to improve urban living and to support needy groups is therefore one of the areas we should look into in the future. In industry, Penang has a very strong electrical and electronic sector, and much of its future industrial expansion relies on it. Upgrading of local SME support for this and other sectors will be worth watching in the near future. In tourism, a sector that has suffered badly this year, the federal government has been encouraging domestic tourism to help keep the sector afloat. To some extent, this has been helpful, but it cannot be a long-term remedy. So how international tourism will evolve post-COVID-19 will depend on proper long-term strategizing and on whom we strategize with. Here, Adelaide and Georgetown should work together for mutual benefit. Now, concerning socio-cultural development, family-focused policies, people empowerment, the democratization of policy-making processes, and digitalization are the pillars expressed in the state vision called Penang 2030. In more concrete terms, encouraging social enterprises and gender equality, raising digital literacy and environmental consciousness, and fostering public health and intercultural understanding are the way to go, and where intercity collaboration can be valuable, if not unavoidable. Now, needless to say, Adelaide and Georgetown are both proud of their many festivals. And here, much synergy can come into play for the good of both. Now, I think online festivals this year are definitely not as fun as physical ones. This will lead us to appreciate, I hope, this will lead us to appreciate post-COVID-19 festivals more, hopefully already next year. And I think Adelaide is kicking off quite early with a huge festival next year. Where the economy is concerned, going forward, whatever the measures chosen to adapt to the expected great shifts in supply chains, in job types, in professional structures, the cities should help each other in developing circular economy thinking as the underlying logic for these changes. Smart must go along with green in our planning for the future. I don't think the two can be separated or should be separated. Alongside present digitalization efforts and to the deep cultural strengths of Adelaide and Georgetown, initiatives to encourage and develop creative economy thinking is also an obvious area to explore. And this must include low-tech activities as well. We shouldn't focus too much only on startups, right? There are cultural activities that also of other types that also need support. Now, my third point concerning education, a lot has been said about that already, so I hope I don't repeat too much. I think Adelaide has something like 23 universities. That's very impressive. While Penang Island has one public university and one open university, and of course a complex network of school systems, including 13 international schools and 2 expatriate schools. So these cities are educational cities, educational centers, without a doubt, whether they might think so themselves or not. But from what I can see, our institutions are rather confused at the moment about what the best course forward is. But we cannot but seek new paths. University Science Malaysia in Penang, for example, is pushing the concept of micro-credentials, realizing that learning has to be much less formal than before, and that courses should instead be more short-term, and focus. The Wawasan Open University in Georgetown, at the same time, is kicking off in January new bachelor courses in 1, digital business, and 2, software engineering, where the students are, after a year of basic technical trade learning, directly incorporated into the workings of industrial players for the rest of the courses. So these are 2 of the major innovations that I can see that our universities here are doing. Now, let me end by mentioning a recent study on STEM students in Penang, done by Penang Institute. It will soon be published anyway. It was found that women, I'll pick up just one of the major points I found interesting. It was found that women tend to study biology while men prefer physics. Women are also more interested in health issues while men prefer new inventions and technologies. No surprise there. But this should interest bioscience companies to tap on the coming excess in bioscience graduates and envision Penang as a biosciences hub of the future. This would also do much for gender equality. Now, with insufficient jobs in the fields that they are most interested in and being less mobile than the men, women will tend to drop out of the labor force despite having tertiary level degrees unless investors and planners for mutual benefit give due attention to their needs and interests. Now, with that, I think I shall end my speech, and I look forward to any questions later in the Q&A. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ki Beng. And while I'm sure Adelaide would like to have the number of universities that you mentioned, I think Michelle was going to just say that there are 3 government universities, I think, Michelle, and 1 or 2 private universities active in Adelaide. But that whole education link that you mentioned is certainly one that we would see as an important part of building the future of the relationship between the 2 cities. And I think that gives us an opportunity to ask Thompson to say a few words as a Penang Australian alumnus about the education and skills training links between the 2 cities. Thompson, we'll come back to some questions for you as well, but just if you've got a couple of high-level points you'd like to make about the education link between the 2 cities.
Thanks so much, Michael. And it's always hard to go after very articulate and very insightful speakers, but just want to make a couple of points here. I think so I think it's important to, first of all, understand the history of Penang and Adelaide at the community level. And that means having that dialogues and conversations to actually understand that. And I just wanted to draw myself as an example. As a Penangite myself, I didn't actually know about the sister city relationship between Penang and Adelaide until I met Michael, whom I started working with the last couple of years ago. And I have to thank Michael for that, because it's important, as I say, to acknowledge that path, that history, and see how we can reflect on that journey and then, find out common points to move things forward. Just touch on a couple of points about education, because that's the space that myself and Michael has been working in. The part about universities, yes, I think 3 universities in Adelaide, and if we actually look into the 3 of them a little bit more in more details, and in fact we have some of our university representatives here today in this dialogue. University of Adelaide is part of the group of 8 university, GO8, and GO8 university tend to have strengths in research area. And then you have UniSA, University of South Australia, which is part of the Australian Technology Network University, ATN. And obviously with Technology Network, that's the practicality and the technology innovation side of things are their strengths. And of course, you also have Flinders University. Of course, on the other side in Malaysia, you have University of Science Malaysia, which is a public university in Malaysia. And of course, with university system in Malaysia, particularly public university, it is under the purview of the federal government, the Ministry of Higher Education. And of course, there are a few other private universities as well in the town, including some of the foreign university. And also on the talent side of things, just wanted to make a couple of comments about diasporas and talent. And I think Haji Mubarak mentioned about talent is so important that we actually have that strategies and also that program or the plans from a government level to actually not just manage the talents. I think the tricky part is about retention, because as much as a lot of resources and effort can be put to attract or to re-attract talents back to, for this case, Penang or Adelaide in general, any cities across the world, I think the focus also should be retention, which is to actually educate the society about the values and also what the state and also the society can offer before they actually left the place. Of course, in Penang, you have the Penang Career Assistance and Talent Center, Penang CAT Center. Just recalling my experience last couple of years ago, in fact, I got in touch with the Penang CAT Center, and that's where I got to know about what are the latest offering in terms of the jobs that Penang is offering, and then also the opportunities in this exciting city. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, I had to make the decisions to spend a couple of years in Penang to contribute. PYDC, Penang Youth Development Center, is also another organization that is progressively doing a lot of efforts and projects to nurture young talents. But I think more towards that, the diaspora and collecting of data about diasporas of Penang and Adelaide, and some of them could be intercity, is also another thing that perhaps, you know, as a moving forward kind of thing, we can look into that. I know that there are a few representatives from Penang Science Center, including Penang Tech Dome, STEM, Science Cluster. They are here today with us as well in this dialogue, which is fantastic. And these are the organizations that are doing amazing things, particularly in research and innovations, that I think from an Adelaide or South Australia perspective, perhaps this is also another way of collaborations that perhaps that can be tapped into. And also on, you know, the school system, I remember when, you know, growing up, I grew up on the mainland side of Penang State, which is from Butterworth. And the schools in Penang States, they are ranked, you know, we talk about university and the skill center, but the schools in Penang State, they are some of them rank quite high in Malaysia in general in terms of the educational level and academic level. Just to name a few, Chongling, of course, you know, one of the, you know, when it comes to public examinations, they rank quite high in Jitsin as well on the mainland side. But also some historical schools there, like the Penang Free School, which has over 200 years of history. So there's so much similarities. But coming back to my initial point about not enough conversations at the community level about sister city, about the shared heritage. So the question for that is, how do we then start the conversations at the community level? But more importantly, I think the two factors, there will be the deciding factor will be first, the cultural differences. I think understanding the cultural differences, you know, as much as we have shared history, shared heritage, but understanding that cultural differences will be a breaking point. And I wanted to emphasize this. And the second, understand the different government systems is also important. Just a very good example, in Australia, federation system, federal government, state government, local councils, you're quite independent from one another. Whereas in Malaysia, it's quite different. Let's take education as an example. Education is still very much a federal government thing in Malaysia, whereas in Australia, it's a state government under the review and under the scope of state government. And that can be, it's important to acknowledge that differences, because when we're looking into entering that collaboration and partnership, understanding that systems and the differences would really help. I'll pause there, Michael, and I'll contribute more during the Q&A. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Thompson. And it's good to have your lived experience of both the Malaysian situation in Penang for young panelists to think in which Adelaide and Penang can better share their sustainability and smart city initiatives, their challenges and their solutions, because it seems from this very rich discussion that you've got two very, very creative cities with very talented people in them who are working on the same problems and coming up with similar initiatives to resolve common problems. And I think it would be really enriching the sister city relationship if we could work out some ways to be connected, whether it be digitally in the current climate, but later, as Keith Beng said, the richness and the warmth of the people-to-people relationship is what really makes that contact way more human and way more encouraging and enticing for people to be part of. So I'd just like you to reflect, first of all, if I could ask Michelle, how do you think Adelaide and Penang could better share their common agendas and work together on some of those challenges and initiatives and solutions?
Thank you, Michael. I mean, it's very interesting actually, and I really do appreciate the very important point about actually understanding each other first and getting to know each other first. And this is the second opportunity that we, a couple of the panelists have had to have a chat. And the more we chat and talk about our challenges, the more and opportunities, the more we find out that actually there are so many more similarities between our situations than perhaps we even realised. Absolutely, in one thing that COVID-19 has taught us is that there's no excuse in terms of physical distancing or being halfway across the world to get to know each other and to understand each other. So I think that first step is definitely about building deeper knowledge in areas where we're working on the same types of issues. And we had already identified, organics and resource recovery was an important area. Absolutely, festivals is very, very important area for us, for both of us as well. And then coming back, to what Thompson was talking about, education, international students are really important for both of us. And I have a real sense that there are opportunities between not just the sister cities and councils, but our university sectors as well. And often our university sectors are much better at reaching across the world and understanding, who's doing what research and keeping on top of the cutting edge. So I think it's bringing the right people together, identifying a number of key areas, which I think is probably education and festivals, events, and then being very purposeful.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And that gives us some concrete ideas to sort of put forward. Also, we cannot help but note that I think it was yesterday the first international flight returned to Adelaide, and it came from Southeast Asia. I think I saw the Singapore Airlines moniker on the back of it, and I'm sure the Malaysian Airlines will, if not already be there, but soon be there as well. And that gives us the hope that the human connection is going to be not too far in the future. So could I ask Pak Mubarak from Penang just to say a few words about how he sees there could be the building of partnerships, the building of exchange, the building of looking at common problems.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pat.
I can't hear your voice. There's some. I can't hear your voice. There's some disruption in terms of internet connectivity. If I understand what you are talking about just now, whatever collaboration between us and also between us and Georgetown and Adelaide, we have to look into whatever benchmark capabilities and infrastructure that is available that we can share along. Because that will be the useful matter in terms of our successful smart city models between the both cities. So this can reduce, this can have an impact in terms of we can learn whatever model and solution that were implemented in Adelaide, and also what are the models and solutions that implemented in our local context, especially in Georgetown. But the challenges that we have to look into is the various social and cultural behavior in Georgetown and also in Adelaide. As we know, there in terms of, for example, if I do in terms of environment, in order to sustain the environment, there is a difference in terms of social and cultural behavior of the Adelaide people and also the Georgetown people in taking care of the environment. So this is something that gather feedback from various stakeholders. We have to look into is the key measure for success for a smart city program. So it has to, whatever we think, whatever we act, we should look into the local scenario in Adelaide and also in Georgetown, because the approach may be good in Adelaide in certain aspect, but the approach may not be suitable in Georgetown, Penang Island. So this is something, but in terms of other aspect, education-wise, we can share the same collaboration. I don't think so. We have much problem in terms of education because we are moving forward together as a city towards nurturing the future talents, and we're getting the support from all our industry players and global partners and local partners. And also we can look into the aspect also how we can share not just a collaboration between city and city, between people and people, community of Georgetown and also community of Adelaide. How to sustain in terms of education, how to enhance our educations, how to enhance and develop our skills and talents. That's what we are doing at the moment with IBM. In order to have a collaboration with IBM, not just locally, and it will be globally accepted. When we collaborate between IBM and also with our local partners here, Polytechnic, and also the industry player, Intel, plus also IBM, so that to create a kind of sustainability of education, so that they have a seamless pathway, a kind of tertiary education with industry kind of skill training, and also they can get a guaranteed career job with IBM. So this is something that we will have to look into. That's what we're doing with IBM, that kind of collaboration. And they are doing it throughout the whole world, globally. And Malaysia, they have choose two states in Selangor, two schools in Selangor. One will be the education center, high learning center in Penang, which will be the Polytechnic Penang. So this is kind of collaboration that we can look into in order to create a kind of situation that whoever studied with the industry player, they can be guaranteed with a career development. So this is something that I think in terms of education, we'll have to look whatever training and whatever industry and skill that we are developing, not just for the sake of tertiary education, is for the sake of their career development. So I think that is something that we can share along. But on other aspect, we have to look into the social and cultural behavior here in terms of Penang, because it needs to suit according to the environment. It is good. I know Adelaide people in terms of environment is very good. I have been to Adelaide before, twice already. In terms of pedestrian scheme in Adelaide compared to here, So even though we have a policy of pedestrian scheme, but here we are not safe to cross the road or some sort of that. Compared to there, in Adelaide, I know pedestrian scheme. Just to cross the road, the car will stop in front of you. I've been there. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mubarak, you brought up some very interesting sort of cultural issues there. And just the point you made about working with industry and working with global industry, I think there is some very interesting common threads there, because there are global industries, particularly defence industries, as discussed earlier in Adelaide, that they require skilled workforce. And with your Penang Skills Development Centre, owned by the manufacturing companies in your Silicon Valley sort of hub in Penang, you need to address the skills training needs of your industries. So I think that's a really interesting area for future discussion. And one of the questions that came in from Josephine was, how do you actually implement initiatives in sustainability, green and smart cities? We don't have time to go into that today, but it's an interesting point that would help inform future dialogue between the two cities. How do you actually go about implementation? And just if I could ask just for a 2-minute from Ki Beng, just to pick out a couple of points that he would like to say, and then we're going to finish off with a short 1 or 2 minute video presentation from the City of Adelaide.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for the 2 minutes. Just nice for what I want to say. I would like to make 2 points. One is that in a crisis, and this is going to be a protracted one, in a crisis, societies tend to get rather introverted. And I think it's up to people like us to make sure that we don't get drawn into that strong trend. I think at the political level and whatnot, I think that trend is bound to be stronger, and it's up to us people, normal people, to make sure that our cosmopolitan trends do not suffer. And to come back better, I think that is really, really necessary, that we retain our international sense of development as much as possible. The second point is, for going forward, I think one should try, Michael, especially your institute or your AAED, we should try to have a rather informal, perhaps half informal, but regular discussion between the two cities, so that you, at the moment, I mean, all the presentations are good, but they're all at a very, very completed level, as it were. It's really important for us to learn from each other that the discussion should be regular and informal and at the right level among the right people. So those are the 2 points I want to make. I would end by asking perhaps Michelle and Michael and even Thompson. Penang Institute, of course, would like to have better ties with some institution in Adelaide that can mirror us in many ways. But I think we can talk more about that, either privately with Michelle or Michael, about which institution would be the most effective one for us to work with.
Thank you very much for those 2 points. So I think, yes, the regular discussions between the two cities. I mean, you mentioned the festival agenda in both places, and yet there's little connectivity between the arts and cultural sectors between Adelaide and Penang, and yet they are both cities that have got a world recognition for the excellence of their arts and cultural festivals and their literary festivals. So it's an obvious thing for us to be working on further. So thank you very much for your comments there, Ki Beng. And before I say farewell to everybody, I'd like Thompson to just prime the 2 minute or 1 to 2 minute City of Adelaide presentation, and then we'll say farewell to everybody. Thank you.
Before that, Michael, can I add 2 key parting words to everyone?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to echo some of the points that Ki Beng has made, and just to look into that. I think South Australia has an international education strategy, and Penang has a a fairly newly established study Penang, which is only a couple of years ago. So perhaps there can be some sort of lessons drawn and inspirations from that South Australian international education strategy to also help position Penang and Georgetown as an international education hub. On cultural, the revival of perhaps Adelaide Week in Penang or Penang Week in Adelaide, I think that was done, but probably a decade ago now. And if obviously the situation allows, that could be another thing. Just last point about, wanted to echo Ki Beng's point about on having that specific areas of interest and stakeholders from both Georgetown and Adelaide. Maybe we can start by sort of having a special interest group, informal discussions. And I think, that could be a informal dialogue platform that we can sort of look into moving forward, but, kind of specializing a little bit more on the specific issues. Lastly, I think I have to say that Penangite, you don't have to be in Penang in order to contribute to Penang. You can be in anywhere else, but you can still play a role in contributing that. So I'll move to the video now.
Thank you very much for your closing comments there, Thompson.
Okay.
I'm pleased to say I'm going to Adelaide in February for the Adelaide Writers' Festival. So I'm a convert. So thank you very much to everybody who's been involved, both on the panel, in the planning, the audience who attended. And I'd like to especially thank the Chief Minister of Penang State, Malaysia, the Honourable Chow Kon Yeo, for his inspiring presentation, the support we received from the South Australian Government, and particularly the acknowledgement and the support and the panel presentations from the City of Adelaide, who were our sponsors for the AAED in Penang last year. From the Penang Island City Council, Haji Mubarak bin Yunus, thank you so much for your informed contribution. Also to Dr. Wee Ki Beng, Executive Director of the Penang Institute. Thank you again, as always, for your inspired and thoughtful analysis. And we really will be working with you to ensure that we help build further and strengthen the relationship that is really important for Adelaide. I mean, for all of us in Australia to have a friendly port of call in Southeast Asia, in the centre of ASEAN, people would die for that. That is a fantastic opportunity that South Australia and Adelaide have, and I think we all have a responsibility to help it, to nurture it and to help it grow. To my colleague Thompson Chung from the AAED, thanks very much, Thompson, for your dedication to the relationship. And to all of the people who attended, also Lara Dado from the City of Adelaide, thank you for your contribution in the lead up to this. And to all of you who attended today from different parts of Australia and ASEAN, thank you for making the time to be part of this event. We look forward to joining you again for other interesting topics that link Australia and ASEAN. Thank you very much, and good afternoon or late good morning if you're in different parts of Southeast Asia. Thank you.